Building safety into planes is paramount to any manufacturer. Boeing, who have built more passenger jets than any company on the planet, have established an excellent safety record. Less than one fatal crash per million flights. This, their 737, has one of the best safety records of any aircraft. 1,200 are in the air at any one time, and one takes off every 5.3 seconds. The Boeing 737 has been in continuous production for over 30 years. It is the world's best-selling airliner. Over 5,000 have been delivered, but they can't make them fast enough. There's a backlog of over 800 still waiting to be delivered. But for all of its success, if you look inside its guts, it's got a lot in common with the Tiger Moth. This aeroplane was designed in the 1960s, and in the 60s, of course, they still had cables connecting the pilot to the flight controls. In this case, the flight controls are actuated by cables but connected to hydraulics. Should the hydraulics fail, though, the pilot himself can physically move the controls with a lot of muscle power. But the 737 was the end of the line for airliners with manual control cables. The basic mechanics of these flight control systems would ultimately get in the way of more efficient and hopefully safer innovations. Innovations that would come from the other side of the pond. A European company, Airbus, had a vision, a new generation of digital aircraft. And the dream became a reality in 1987. They produced an aeroplane which would revolutionize the way that airlines thought and the way that pilots flew. This is it, the Airbus A320. Look, no hands. The flight controls on this aeroplane are signalled, yes, by wires, but not by cables, by electrical wires. By electrical signals, by digital electrical signals, because we are in the world's first production digital fly-by-wire aeroplane. And as well as increasing efficiency, Airbus believed computerized control systems could seriously reduce the chances of pilots crashing aeroplanes. Pilot error is the largest single cause of aircraft crashes. Tragedies like this, the world's worst ever mid-air disaster, which happened in India when a Kazakh pilot ignored the instructions of the flight controller and ploughed his Ilyushin into a Saudi 747, killing 379 people. Over 50% of all air accidents are caused by the man at the controls. And though you can't prevent many kinds of pilot error, Airbus have designed the A320 to protect itself. This plane, the first A320, is used as a flying testbed to find the limits of what the aircraft can withstand. Because this is a test aircraft, it's full, crammed full of equipment like this, which tests up to 4,000 parameters every time the airplane goes flying. The airplane even has its own ballast tanks, so it can change its center of gravity. Having established the aircraft's safe limits, Airbus programmed the computers to stop pilots from going beyond them. However, there's one condition that it hasn't encountered yet, and this could be perhaps its most severe test. Me.
Just before we go for the takeoff, Bruce, I'll let you do all the flying here, so even though it's your first time actually flying a real Airbus, I will take it.
Peter Chandler, the test pilot, must have some kind of death wish. I've never flown anything like this in my life. I'm a Boeing man. My 757 has a control wheel where Airbus have put a place for mistake frites. After all, it is French, and one must have something to eat your dinner off. This little side stick replaces the control wheel I'm used to and all the trim controls. It's a completely different philosophy, a bit more like flying a video game. OK, we're cleared to go. Here we go. And keeping it straight with the rudder pedals.
100 knots.
That's checked.
V1, rotate. Positive climb. Gear is coming up.
Gear up, and this plane's climbing like a French ferret up your trouser leg. Now we've reached a decent altitude, it's time to find out if this plane is as safe and intelligent as they say. So I'm going to test that. I'm going to be unsafe and very stupid.
Bruce, what I'd like you to do is just show me what you think is the maximum sort of angle of bank you would use in an aeroplane with passengers on board, just to get an idea where that is in the flight envelope. So
that's about it.
All right, so there we go, 20, maybe 25 degrees of bank.
Yeah.
Normally I wouldn't bank an airliner beyond 25 degrees. Now I want to see what happens if I try and roll the plane to the point where we could do structural damage.
So what we've got here is a situation where we're going to try and roll the aeroplane absolutely to the maximum amount of bank it can do. And in just a second, you'll see the world from a very different perspective. Here we go. So pitching up, 3 and full right stick, all the way over.
Do this in a conventional airliner and it would go into a beautiful spiral dive until you pulled the wings off.
Oh my word! Whack, full side stick.
But at 67 degrees of bank on the A320, the computer says, roll no more.
If I just release that now, you can see the airplane just rolls me back to wings level. That was good. People pay good money for that, fairgrounds.
Any pilot can tear his plane apart if he puts his mind to it, but the Airbus has been tested to its limits on this very plane. So the computer prevents a careless, cack-handed, or even unconscious pilot from exceeding those limits. What's called the flight envelope. Well, Peter doesn't seem to have lost his nerve yet, and the wings are still intact. So we're going to try one more test, one of the more reckless things you can do in a passenger jet. I'm going to try and stall it.
So now what I'm going to do is be a terribly bad pilot. I'm going to close the thrust levers. You could even say mad pilot if you wanted.
This plane had better do what it says on the tin, or you'll be reading about me in the morning papers.
So I'm descending at the moment, about 1,000 feet a minute. I'm descending towards a mountain range, which is not a sensible thing to do under normal circumstances.
Peter obviously gets his adrenaline jollies flying the most dangerous manoeuvres low over the Pyrenees.
Got 150 knots, and I'm going to take my hand off the thrust levers. Look, no hands, and I'm still keeping 150 knots, but we're descending. And at some point, I'm going to get from the left seat a simulated whoop whoop pull up. And at that point, I'm going to not touch the thrust levers, and I'm just going to pull back on the stick. An instinctive, like, get me out of here type reaction.
This would be unbelievably stupid on a normal plane. Of course, the nose would shoot up in the air, but if you don't increase the throttles, it would stall and drop straight onto the mountains below.
This is the daftest thing I've done in an airplane for years.
Okay, so here we go.
Full up.
Full back stick, panic stations.
Terrain. Full up. Terrain.
Blimey.
Without me touching the throttles, the flight control computers kick the engines to full thrust.
I'm looking at the speed washing off. I'm looking at, like, all kinds of warnings going off on the thing. I've got toga, I've got alpha floor. Looking over my shoulder, oh my God, look at that attitude. That's just astounding. That is just really something. We're going up at 5,000 feet a minute. I haven't touched the throttles. I've just left them where they were before. And if I wiggle the wings slightly and roll left and right, I still have control of this gorgeous bird.
That was one hell of a test drive. If ever things did go pear-shaped on me in an aircraft, I think I'd want to be in one of these.
Retard.
Well, I may be a Boeing man, but there's only one way to describe that flight.
That was absolutely awesome.